Kinnett.
Tony Kinnett.
Tony Kinnett.
Tony Kinnett.
Tony Kinnett.
Tony Kinnett.
Tony Kinnett.
Host of the Tony Kinnett Cast.
Let's get down to business.
You're listening to the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WYPC.
WCYTV.
Here on the Daily Signal.
You take just 2 days off. And gee whiz, before you know it, you are just racked right against the teeth with the non-stop news that just doesn't stop. I mean, it's incredible. The nonstop news that punches right in, and it's just, my goodness, what's gone on in the last couple of days from the Trump administration is so unreal. First of all, as an individual who stopped very quickly into the Starlight Ball, the ball right at the beginning of the Trump administration, there's all kinds. I'm trying to just quantify how crazy it was to step into the Starlight Ball, which is the big presidential ball after the inauguration, and then not even see Trump because the dude is so busy slapping executive orders down left and right. And ever since then, I mean, he's just been nonstop. Donald Trump made a huge swath of campaign promises. And look, we all know how campaign promises go. You get into quite the kind of the fervor in the middle of the campaign, and you start saying that you're going to do this, you're going to do that, you're going to release the JFK files, and you're going to rename the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. You're going to get out here, you're going to unleash ICE and immigration problems, and you're going to pardon all of these groups, and you're going to do all of this stuff. And people just kind of tongue-in-cheek expect that maybe you'll get around to that at some point. But I mean, people make campaign promises all the time that really don't materialize at all. Well. That is not indeed the case at all for the Trump administration, because Trump has actually been delivering promise after promise after promise after promise that he made to people throughout the entire election. So very, very quickly in the quick news roundup, we're going to go through what these are because they're flying in so fast. If you look away for just a minute or two, I was actually joking with a producer over at Newsmax about this today. If you look away for just to take lunch, you go inside, heat up a bowl of something, you get back inside, 15 more executive orders have been passed, 3 new policies have been changed, half the people in this agency are fired. It's amazing. So, first thing Trump did when he got into office was completely reverse the Biden-era immigration policies that ruined the southern border of the United States and created a migrant crisis in which migrants from countries like Haiti and Venezuela resulted in the murder of innocent Americans. Which really could say resulted in the murder of Americans, because again, a foreign national murdering an American is a problem no matter who the American is. Then Trump unfettered immigrations and customs enforcement and let Tom Homan go. And by the way, the results of that so far have been truly astounding. Here's a guy from Haiti. Remember now how the media portrayed this? Of course you don't. You're not watching the legacy media like CNN or MSNBC. Nobody is. You're not paying attention to that clown show. What in the world are you catching then? Well, we're actually seeing some individuals on left-wing media say that, it's going to be children dragged out of schools and, the crying, sad moments. No, the illegal immigrants that are actually being rounded up are like this very nice gentleman from Haiti.
I'm not going back to Haiti.
One of those threats is this illegal alien from Haiti. ICE says he's a gang member with 17 criminal convictions in recent years.
Trump, you feel me? Little Biden forever, bro. Thank Obama for everything that he did for me, bro.
Boy, that's a campaign video in and of itself, isn't it? So the real charming individuals. Also, Trump has reactivated Remain in Mexico. So if you are going to try to migrate or emigrate to the United States, you need to stay in Mexico until you're cleared. Trump declared 2 national emergencies. He created a national emergency for the southern border of an invasion and an act of war basically by the drug cartels against the United States. 1,500 troops have been deployed to the southern border. The Department of Defense is being put in the position to build the Mexico border wall. That is always who should have taken care of this. It is a military matter to make sure that enemy forces are not allowed to assault, traffic, steal, destroy through an open border of the United States. Then, moving right along, Trump declared another national emergency regarding the energy crisis in the United States. President Joe Biden, now former president and mental institution and nursing home resident Joseph R. Biden, who had drained the Strategic Petroleum Reserve for both the Ukraine and European oil markets, as well as kind of an election tactic to lower gas prices to give himself a little bit of a boost. He also banned Louisiana Natural Gas from exporting natural gas and had no idea he did it, at least according to Speaker Johnson. Trump has declared a national emergency to address the serious problem the United States has in liquid fuels storage. As well, Donald Trump made good on a promise to pardon the January 6th rioters in response to a couple of things. Number one, the horrible treatment of those who were arrested and convicted of rioting at the January 6th event, that riot in front of the Capitol and in the Capitol. Now, do I think those individuals shouldn't have been arrested, especially the violent ones? Absolutely, the violent ones absolutely should have been arrested. Individuals who are trespassing also should have been arrested. Should they have been given massive prison sentences? No. And when the government gave an unruly and an undue and over-the-top punishment, cruel and unusual in this case, I think that after what the Biden administration did in pardoning his family members and others, that it makes sense here. Also today, Trump went ahead with pardoning the peaceful pro-life protesters who were gone after by Merrick Garland and Biden's pro-abortion administration. Here's Trump signing a bill pardoning individuals who were arrested for protesting at an abortion clinic today.
Next, we have a set of pardons for peaceful pro-life protesters who were prosecuted by the Biden administration for exercising their First Amendment rights.
Do you know how many?
I believe it's 23, sir.
23 people were prosecuted. They should not have been prosecuted.
Now, but wait, there's more, and I hate to cut off the President of the United States, but there was so much news and not a whole lot of time in the FCC radio clock to get to it. This brings us over to what Trump did regarding clarifying birthright citizenship, in which the 14th Amendment of the United States reads that you are a citizen of the United States if you are born in the United States and both of your parents are subject to the laws of the United States. You're under the jurisdiction, which means being the child of illegal immigrants does not qualify you for citizenship. The Trump administration clarified this. A federal judge blocked that today. The left is losing their ever-loving minds over it. We'll get to that soon. Then, Donald Trump signed an executive order ending diversity, equity, and inclusion programs in the federal government, period. In fact, memos and various letters were sent out informing individuals that they were to be gone by 5 p.m. Here's CNN, of all places, illustrating how much money was wasted on these racially and sexually discriminatory programs in the federal government.
CNN analyzed the proposed budgets of 20 federal agencies. HHS, for example, requested $113 million in its budget for training for diversity in the health workforce. And the Department of Defense asked for $50 million to fund DEI-related activities. The
Department of Education was far worse. We're finding hundreds of millions of dollars that have just fallen into an open pit for racially discriminatory programs that come under the guise of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Now, we'll get to that just a little bit later, if not more tomorrow. The Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and Explosives, which should not exist in any way, shape, or form, it's an unconstitutional agency, had a chief diversity officer, Lisa T. Boykin, who, after finding out that all of the DEI staff was getting canned, the ATF quietly changed her title to senior executive. So in case you were wondering if the members of the agencies, otherwise known as the deep state, are in fact awful, for some reason you're still wondering that, the answer is yes. Absolutely, the ATF should be closed down immediately. Trump also labeled cartels as terror organizations. We'll get to that a little bit later. Trump has also threatened Russia, Hamas, and China with tariffs if they don't get with the program. And my personal favorite one that actually shocked me to the core. A couple of weeks ago, actually just over a month ago, Trump hosted CEO Son of the Japanese firm SoftBank. And the CEO Son actually said that he was going to invest $100 billion into the United States. And Trump said in this video, in this press conference in front of the whole country, make it $200 billion. And everyone kind of laughed because that's Trump's boisterous style and, is one of those things. And then just yesterday, as I was getting ready for a TV hit, watched Trump get up in front of the country with executives from Oracle, NVIDIA, and yes, CEO son of Japan's SoftBank, and announced a $500 billion investment into the United States. The man took a $100 billion investment and quintupled it. I have never seen anything remotely like that. Other news of the day, Pete Hegseth is now going through. Only GOP senators from Alaska and Maine are voting no. Shocker. I know the senators from Alaska and Maine are, in fact, the most insufferable senators on the Republican side of the aisle. Trump also announced that he will be declassifying the assassination investigations and documents regarding JFK, Robert F. Kennedy, his brother, and the Martin Luther King Jr. assassination. There is all kinds of stuff coming down the pike. We don't even have time to get to Pramila Jayapal and Ilhan Omar. We'll have to touch on that later because we need to head over to Reagan Reese, White House correspondent from the Daily Caller, up next. Stick around. It's a full show today. It's the Tony Kinnett cast here on the Daily Signal.
Subscribe to get the news the legacy media won't tell you and only the Daily Signal can bring to you.
This is the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIBC.
Welcome back to the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal, nationally syndicated, first on 93 WIBC. It's good to be joined by my friend, the White House correspondent for the Daily Caller, Reagan Reese, who's been, chatting it up with President Trump now that he's back in the White House, getting multiple questions on the press pool yesterday. Reagan, how's it going?
Good. Thanks so much for having me.
Well, let's dig right into it. You got how many questions? I think 2 direct answers to questions at least yesterday.
Yes. Yeah. So I got to ask the president 2 questions when he was in the Roosevelt Room yesterday announcing his new AI infrastructure deal. There is another video I posted to Twitter of a question he took as the pool. I was on pool duty yesterday, so was in charge of following Trump around. Of another reporter, it wasn't me asking a question of the president, but opportunities like that were so rare, and to be able to capture it, were so rare under the Biden administration. Being able to capture something like that on the Trump administration and being one of those only reporters who saw that moment with Trump was really special and really, really cool. And I think speaks to what we're going to see more of over the next 4 years.
I remember during the last administration, whenever I would reach out to the White House for comment, whenever I would just seek clarification on anything, and usually getting the deputy press secretary, who I'm very thankful is now extra unemployed, he would respond with such scorn, never any information at all that would actually be clarified or given. And it was a huge embarrassment. On top of, like you said, there was rarely a time when reporters could actually follow around President Biden, much less Kamala Harris, which is strange given how she's supposed to be younger and more alert than he is, and take questions and give answers to reporters and correspondents, kind of moving around as the president does. Now Trump is probably answering more direct questions than I've seen in a really long time. What's the atmosphere inside the room with the other correspondents?
Well, I would also just say, I would add on that Trump feels like he's having a conversation with the press. I mean, in that first, 12 not even 12 hours, couple hours when he was in the Oval Office signing executive orders and reporters were just kind of yelling things at him. And he was
stopped
responding.
and looked up and answered and stopped being, sometimes he would, continue to, sign out, when he was answering the question on the billionaires. Oh, billionaires. Oh, you didn't have a problem when the last guy had a lot of billionaires around him. But occasionally he would stop and he would consider the question and answer it, and not scripted, no assistants holding a pad. This is the answer, Mr. President.
Yeah.
That's kind of unique.
Yes, no, totally. It definitely is. And it's that back and forth is really healthy for America. And I think it humanizes the president. And it is definitely something we didn't see at all during the Biden administration. I know President Biden would gaggle, but it was only for a couple minutes at a time. Having a president that wants to engage in back and forth for an hour is is really interesting. But I think with the mood around the White House, it is energetic, it is busy, it is packed. And towards the tail end of the Biden administration, really when Biden dropped out of the race, the White House briefing room was essentially empty. I would say about 50-60% of correspondents were showing up to the briefings. Now, just yesterday, there was no press briefing. Almost every single seat in that briefing room was filled with reporters working, just trying to get a glimpse of the administration. And, yesterday we had Tom Homan walk through the briefing room. Caroline Leavitt was accessible as she walked down the media row. And today there were some congressmen who walked through, even Sean Hannity. And that's something I've heard about the first Trump administration, is that officials would walk the campus all the time and that you could pull them for questions and news-making opportunities. And I think that is so different than what we're going to see. I've never saw that during the Biden administration. I never received a pool report that said, Pete Buttigieg walked through the briefing room. And so it's already so different. And I don't think that's like this is the first day of the administration thing. I think this is what a Trump administration is like.
Now, that's something I wanted to mention. You talked about receiving pool reports about individuals walking through the briefing room or down Media Row or throughout the campus. I have already had to assign a specific notification sound just for emails from the White House press office. I have not had to do that in a very, very long time. And let me explain, first of all, because there was some confusion. I posted about this on Twitter or X yesterday, and there was a snide comment or two saying, oh, you think that press releases are transparency. And I mean, genuinely, no, you don't understand. We are receiving so many answers to questions that are being sent out publicly. Like, instead of just responding to one reporter, they're like, hey, this is a really good question. Here's a press release. And it's like, what? Wait a minute. What in the world is? I'm getting so much communication from this comms office. And then, I mean, that's unreal, but that's not necessarily what I wanted to ask you about. I just had to get that in. Since you've started working in the press corps of this particular administration's media room, have you seen a more diverse cast, not, the DEI diverse way, but a more diverse cast of ideological and from different media environment correspondents in there, rather than just the legacy media of old?
I think they would be comfortable with me sharing this, but my friends over at One American News, and I have a friend who's with Frontlines at TPUSA, they told me that they've been allowed into the WHCA, and that is kind of a recent development. And, I'm not completely sure what those outlets' relationship was with the WHCA before, or why they weren't in the WHCA. And we could get into this whole discussion about what the point of the WHCA is, and do you really need that membership in the WHCA? But the White House Correspondents Association. Yeah, but
right, the HOA of the White House press room.
Exactly. I tell people it's like a union. But I do think that them being allowed into this WHCA, that's kind of been like this cool kids club for the last couple of years, is signifying that this Trump administration's posture towards the media is having a broader effect on how the White House press corps is going to start treating those who don't agree with them. And it's also really interesting to see a lot of these outlets move their top-notch reporters who were not on the Biden White House to the Trump White House. And so I think you're going to get a wide range of reporters in the next few days.
So if we look at the next couple of days, kind of in the scope of what a correspondent is expecting, you have to keep track of all of the various bits of news that are popping up. And this also means entertaining questions, or perhaps being derailed at the moment from someone asking a question that has nothing to do with what's being discussed at the moment. So, for example, let us come up with a hypothetical. Let's say you're discussing an economic situation, or perhaps a major economic investment, and there is some reporter who I was told then tried to leave immediately after that Trump, maybe he asked Trump something like, hey, what about the January 6th pardons, or something like that. When a question like that is asked in the room, I know that in professional environments, those of us in the communications and broadcasting sphere, we try to keep perhaps our eye rolls to a minimum. Does the room from the reporter side ever react to those kinds of questions?
When I was in this situation yesterday, I was wondering, like, if I roll my eyes, is President Trump going to notice that, like, that I also think that question is ridiculous? And I mean, I've been in these briefing rooms before where you're sitting in the back row and people are asking about some hysteria, and nobody's asking, like during the Biden administration, no one's asking about, was Kamala Harris involved in hiding Biden's condition, or like why, like what's going on here, you know, various topics. And you do roll your eyes as someone who feels like half the country is not being represented in these briefing rooms. Yesterday, for example, there's a small amount of people allowed on the pool. And I would say that in the pools that I've been on, a majority of the reporters have agreed with each other, and I probably am standing on the opposite side of things. So, you know, yesterday we were talking about AI infrastructure. And I mean, I didn't ask the president about AI infrastructure because that's not something that's totally interesting to our readers. But I do think that there are more topics that are interesting besides the J6 pardons to President Trump's supporters. And, you know, there wasn't too much of a reaction when that stuff happens. I mean, there was a little bit of reaction from me, but more importantly, there was a reaction from President Trump. And watching him spar with the media it's really interesting, and it's healthy, and it's not like the type of cussing and backlash that Biden would do. It's like a smart banter, and I think it's interesting to see, and it's healthy for the media.
It is really strange. I remember, so when I worked in public school administration and I would disagree with a superior, you did run the risk, if you said something in the meeting, of the person getting very embarrassed and flustered and how dare you question me, and you know, X, Y, and Z, explicative. But I noticed that whenever I'm looking at the Trump administration talking with the press, be they friendly, be they antagonistic, be they neither, that there is kind of a witty broadcaster's banter back and forth, where it's like, you know, quip to quip to quip. And it reminds me, again, a little bit of Pierre Poilievre eating the apple and talking with a reporter. But I am eager to see so far that the questions that have been asked are varied, and they're not all just coming from, you know, the CNN and the MSNBC and the WAPO and the NYT correspondents right up at the front row and everyone else getting crumbs. Reagan Reese from the Daily Caller, their White House correspondent. Any idea on any other big scandals that we should be looking out for before we let you go?
It's a good question. I don't know at this moment. I heard rumors that...
I know it's a flurry of a hurricane of information, but you can't help. I can't help but ask if there's anything we should be looking out for here on the horizon.
I haven't heard much, but I did see a rumor that Elon was in the Oval Office yesterday, and I know that's a big thing that the libs are kind of latching on to. And so that is something that I'm watching over the next few days to kind of figure out how Trump and Elon are going to balance this relationship and this power. I don't want to say struggle. It doesn't seem like the right word, but there's definitely some push and pull between them and how they rose to the top together and are now choosing to lead. And so I think that's going to come into the news cycle a lot more in the coming days. Interesting.
Reagan Reese, again, Daily Caller, appreciate it. Always a blast to work with you guys and see what you do. And good luck. Look forward to a lot of other great questions.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
We'll be back in just a second. Don't go anywhere. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal.
This is the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIBC.
Welcome back to the Tony Kinnett Cast. It's time for a little awful tweet here and there with Jerry Lopez, Indy Spanglish over on X. Jerry, my man, how's it going?
Not too bad, not too bad. Hey, man, still licking my wounds from that Notre Dame Ohio State game. So I lost a bet. So Jamie Brooks, if you're listening, it hurts my heart to have to do this, but OH. And now that I feel like I'm going to throw up, let's get into these awful tweets, Tony.
I do have to share, just because I wasn't going to bring it up, but do you know how I found out
right now
that the game was over? I found out the game was over and that they had lost because at the Starlight Ball, who unfortunately some have locked in the Indiana Vance thing, that by a smile on his face when he looked at some of us Hoosiers, I knew. And that was the moment I was like, oh yeah, the game. And I checked and I was disgusted. Oh, so awful tweets.
Yeah, it was bad.
All right. Awful tweets works like this. You send us the worst social media posts that you can find on this big wide internet, and we suffer with you. So getting into a few of these here, there are some real stinkers. A lot of news headlines this week. For example, the New York Times, how labeling drug cartels terrorists could hurt the U.S. economy. Those poor Mexican drug cartels, Jerry?
Yeah, it's crazy when the New York Times would do this, but look up that Carlos Slim that owned a huge portion of the New York Times there for a while, richest man in Mexico. I'm sure he has no ties whatsoever to any crime whatsoever, but it's amazing that, yeah, a terrorist organization now is going to hurt our economy, according to our media.
Well, let's turn over to a senator for some good advice here. Adam Schiff says the president gave a literal get out of jail free card to rioters who committed horrific violence in his name. Not just forgiveness for their crimes, but a permission structure to do it again. Donald Trump was elected to lower prices, not run the country like a mob. What do you think about that one?
The funny part about this guy is he did an interview with Joy Reid where he was saying he had never heard of somebody receiving one of these who hadn't committed a crime. Yet, didn't he receive a pardon shortly after when Biden was leaving office? He was part of that group of people that received pardons for supposedly never committing a crime. I mean, it doesn't make any sense, Tony.
I do love seeing people who are mad that others got pardons when they themselves received a pardon. Very special stuff there. So shuffling right along here. This is from a left-wing account called Pop Crave saying Donald Trump has revoked the Equal Employment Opportunity Act of 1965, otherwise known as the Affirmative Action Executive Order. The order prohibited discrimination in hiring and employment based on race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. Yeah, Jer, that's not what that did at all.
Yeah, I think they had this completely wrong. Basically, Donald Trump has made it so that people can't hire you based on your race or your sexual orientation. I mean, it just further affirms these opportunities that are given to people to make it an equal playing field based on any race or anything like that.
Yeah, the Equal Employment Opportunity Act, or affirmative action, is completely discordant with the Civil Rights Act. As has been said a lot, but we'll keep moving. So much time, so many leftist pundits here. This is from JoJo, who's like Harry Sisson, but a real woman. At least that's what I'm told. So she says, kind of funny that MAGA wants us to get over January 6th and look forward, not back, when they still haven't gotten over losing the civil bleeping war. What?
JoJo's an idiot. JoJo needs to go back to school, first of all. And here's the other part. When I saw this submission, I went to JoJo's account because I knew for sure this was satire. No, it's not satire at all. This lady is 100% serious, and her image at the top is her shaking Joe Biden's hand. So this is a legitimate tweet. There is a human out there that thinks that the Republicans lost the Civil War.
Yeah, that's
and they consider themselves an influencer.
Yeah, kind of a struggle. Well, we'll head to people that are obviously very intelligent, like Anonymous, the hacker group. They said the U.S. is about to have no vegetables and fruit from Mexico, no meat, eggs, and potash from Canada, and no agricultural workers due to ethnic cleansing.
Yeah, I don't think they looked up the definition of ethnic cleansing, Tony. But if Donald Trump has his way, there will be no Mexico, there will be no Canada. There'll just be Northern America, Southern. It'll all just be us. But ethnic cleansing, this doesn't qualify. This is illegal deportations of illegals. A little bit different.
I just want to point this out for the boys, girls, and squirrels at home, because we had that Episcopalian goober get up in front of the national prayer service and lecture everyone about things. And she started describing immigrants. And she said, they clean our houses and they clean our hospitals and they mow our lawns and they wash our dishes. And I was like, oh my God. Just like this tweet here, the racism is just right out loud. Hispanic people to them are just ag workers and meatpacking plant people.
Just workers.
Gee whiz. And they have no idea why it's bad to assume that, oh, well, Juan is just clearly an illegal immigrant. He might as well be picking cotton. It's like, oh my dear sweet heavens, what a thing to say. So we'll move on to very important journo Margaret Brennan, who said President Trump revoked the security clearances of a long list of former intelligence officials, 51 to be precise. Then she says, this makes it hard for his own team to seek informed counsel from them. Yes, Jerry. Because that's who Trump was going to go seek advice from.
Maybe he doesn't want informed counsel from 51 people who signed on to say the Hunter Biden laptop was fake.
Oh, not just fake, was Russian disinformation, a bold-faced intelligence lie.
Maybe those are not the people that need to be consulting with you on what you should do.
Well, we'll head over to Axios, who has since deleted this, we'll leave Karen Piper for another day. Did the Axios tweet get loaded in? I guess it didn't. So we will head over to Karen Piper. Karen Piper is upset. She says that a pastor, that Episcopalian woman, gave a sermon about kindness, and now she's getting death threats. This is what I mean about things getting bad quickly. Only there's a catch, Jerry. During the LA fires, she said, hey, James Wood's house is burning down. It's karma calling. Ah, yes, that famous left-leaning kindness.
Yeah, but she'll report me if I really say what I want to say to Karen, right? That's why she has to go over to Blue Sky where everybody can be weirdos, right? It's so ridiculous. Listen, I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. I hope you don't lose your whole household goods,
right?
And I hope you're safe. I'm an adult. We can argue politically, but I don't want anything bad to happen to you. These people on the left are straight lunatics, man.
Well, it sounds like Christian principles, Jerry, but don't worry, man. We'll head over to Axios. I found the particular message. This was sent to us. Axios has since deleted this. They said Trump's flurry of orders restricting immigration and promising mass deportations violates core Christian principles of caring for the poor and needy. No.
Also, do they really want us to go on Christian principles? Because isn't that what they complain about every other time? They can't have it both ways.
I thought that the Christianity, I love it. So in one hand, they want to say like Jesus is this made up sky daddy and everyone's stupid who believes in him and all this stuff. But then they want to come out and say, well, hey there, that's not very Christian. Oh, how could you?
Yeah.
I cherry picked this one verse from a Hallmark card that had a Bible verse in it once, and I am an expert. Great.
Right. Well, they'll come out next week and be like, the country is having anti-abortion laws based on Christian beliefs. Like,
yeah, it's Christian nationalism.
Last week.
Good point.
Yeah.
Jerry Lopez, Indy Spanglish over on X. Looking forward to another great bit of awful tweets here next week. Send us your stuff, y'all.
Oh yeah, you got 6 days to get them in.
That's right. We'll be back in just a second. Don't go anywhere. It is the Tony Kinnett Cast here on The Daily Signal.
The Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIPC.
Welcome back to the Tony Kinnett Cast. My colleagues over at The Daily Signal are just top-notch. They're fantastic. We have an amazing crew of really dedicated reporters and analysts, not to mention the news production work of Virginia Allen, who you might have seen in that promo over the break for Problematic Women. Excellent show. And there has been a slew of news that came down the pike today that I'm watching all of the Trump information as far as the executive orders he's signing, what people have to say about him. And my colleagues like Elizabeth Mitchell and Fred Lucas are just popping out article after article after article because Trump is not the only one in motion at the moment. The United States Senate and House of Representatives, believe it or not, are like active, and not just active, like actually doing things that are useful. And it's some pretty incredible stuff. So, for example, Fred Lucas has an article over at the Daily Signal on Secretary of State Rubio, who is already moving swiftly to implement the new no DEI garbage directive at the State Department. So an internal memo includes removing the Office of Diversity and Inclusion's webpage. The State Department memo states, this is according to Fred Lucas, quote, "No department personnel or chief of mission shall, as a part of carrying out their job duties, promote discriminatory ideology," end quote. It really is amazing that we're in a position where right now the federal government has to be scrubbed of racially discriminatory nonsense. Very, very strange. And that's not the only thing. In the Senate, Senator Mike Lee of Utah has introduced a bill to repeal the FACE Act, which basically creates a very weird hate crime protection status for abortion clinics and pro-choice people. So, for example, if you are a pro-choice person and you go throw red paint on a billboard that is a pro-life billboard, you aren't going to get charged with a hate crime. I have yet to find a jurisdiction in which the FACE Act will be used to come after you. But if you are a pro-life person and you commit any kind of a crime, no matter how small, no matter how meager, no matter how perhaps innocuous, then you will likely be slapped with a hate crime as well. Because, again, with the FACE Act, the pro-choice groups have been made this weird sheltered class. So according to Elizabeth Mitchell over at the Daily Signal, Senator Lee of Utah told the Daily Signal that Biden's unjust weaponization of the FACE Act against pro-life activists and people of faith in general belongs in the dustbin of history. While President Trump is stopping these outrageous prosecutions, we should ensure that no future administration has the ability to persecute Americans through unequal application of the law. And that brings everything to a very fine point. Because all of these executive orders, they're super. And we can play patty cake ping pong back and forth, administration after administration with executive orders. That is not how the United States was meant to be governed. Congress is supposed to pass laws. They're supposed to be signed into the law and upheld by the President of the United States, according to the constitutionality of those laws as determined by the courts. That is how it is supposed to function. And none of these things that Trump is doing or isn't doing are going to matter unless Congress actually wields the power people have given it. Stop relying on federal agencies to pass regulations and rules and start doing their job and getting things across the Senate floor. By the way, this is why I believe that McConnell, who was rumored to be one who was going to vote against Pete Hegseth, Trump's pick for the Secretary of Defense, this is why I believe that McConnell likely ended up voting in favor of Hegseth. Because McConnell, though at odds with a lot of the more populist parts of the Republican Party, understands that there are times when you actually have to act in Congress and get things done, as wild as that sounds. Now, people like Senator Murkowski, they don't understand that. They're, too busy crying about mountains in Alaska. So that brings us over to just a little kind of on the close here that I particularly enjoy. Let's see if I can get this video drawn up here. So this is the very strange, very, very strange lady who was the well, you know what? Actually, we're going to go ahead and leave that video closed because I have just been informed that there are a few instabilities in our streaming program. So if I don't leave it right here, if I don't leave it right here at the present time, then it's going to knock us out. So, alas, that is one of those things. I might even have to finish the rest of the show here on the alternative camera. Maybe I can bring that back. There we go. We will be back in a couple of minutes for a little bonus tonus here. Some other things we need to get to at the top of the show. Those of you that are listening over on the radio network, you will have to head over to the live streams on X or YouTube to catch the rest of the show this evening. A few more things to get to. Everything from the insanity of individuals like Ilhan Omar and Pramila Jayapal, Rashida Tlaib, all of the classic regular characters. And then, of course, a little something over on the social medias. Take care. This is the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal. All right. Welcome back to the Tony Kinnett Cast. Good to be with you. We've got a few things that have been left untouched. And these are basically in relation to Trump's very interesting moves on basically starting off this administration with as many home runs as possible. And it is really giving the left a tizzy. The left is in a broken state. And I mean just lying on the ground, open, gaping chest wounds. The left is really struggling at the moment. It's not going very well. And because it's not going particularly well for the left, because it's not going in a direction that many were hoping for, there was a bit of a small silver lining that there were individuals like John Fetterman in the Senate who were going to act responsibly and excellently, and were going to maybe bring back the Bill Clintonian era of responsibility in the Democratic Party. Nope. The Senate put forward a bill which would require children who were accidentally born during an abortion. It would require those children, according to this bill, to be given basic medical attention. So that sounds normal, right? I mean, if there was a child that is born, whether on purpose or accidentally, then hey, boys, girls, and squirrels, it makes sense to me that you might, in fact, give medical care to that child. And all of the Senate Democrats are voting against it, including John Fetterman, because he's like, well, I'm really a pro-Roe guy, and I'm really, in favor of a woman's right to choose. If the baby is there, if that is a child with its own DNA, that ain't the woman. That is a baby. And the left is going to go deeper and deeper into its rabbit hole of very, very stupid decisions that are laid bare before the American people. I mean, if a baby is old enough to receive medical attention during a failed abortion, and we're getting earlier and earlier record-setting deliveries as time goes on, as science advances, then it's probably old enough to look like a baby that is being slaughtered, not the classic clump of cells maneuver that the left has used for a very long time. But again, that's just Fetterman. Over in the House, things are somehow even worse. So Rashida Tlaib is freaking out because the House has put forward a bill. By the way, I hope that you've noticed when I've described some of the bills so far, these aren't big omnibus package bills. The House is actually putting forward single-issue bills to change laws in the United States permanently. Like, it's supposed to. I know. I'm shocked, too. So one of the bills the House has put forward basically frames up, right now, according to federal law, an illegal immigrant. They don't necessarily need any special reason to be kicked out of the country because they're here illegally. An individual who has been given migrant-protected status, it's a little bit murkier because that's not really supposed to be like an actual classification of an individual. Either they have a visa to be here or they do not. Either they are a citizen, they are someone here with official documentation, or not. Someone who's claimed asylum status has been given kind of like a very light index card's worth of information from the government that they're supposed to be here. It's kind of a different case. And also, given that the Biden administration has imported a bunch of individuals under this migrant parole business who are from dangerous countries and who have very dangerous pasts, it turns out that those individuals end up committing additional crimes. And so this bill in the House would create a series of repercussions where if someone who is a migrant and not a citizen is caught stealing, murdering, participating in some kind of serious crime, then they would be deported because you have shown that you can't handle living here like a normal person. And this caused Rashida Tlaib to just lose her marbles and claim that this would affect her mom. What?
Enough is enough. It will separate families. It would lead again to continued discrimination. It's shameful that my colleagues are giving in to racist fear-mongering at the first opportunity to pass legislation to scapegoat our immigrant neighbors and fuel hate in our communities. I know what's going to happen. It won't just be undocumented. It'll be people like my mother who will get stopped and profiled. She have to carry her U.S. passport around? Are we asking people now to have documentation? That's what you want to turn our neighborhoods into, is militarization?
I yield the gentlelady an additional 30 seconds.
Gentlelady is recognized.
I just ask all of you to truly understand what this will do to our communities. I urge our colleagues to please vote no on this divisive bill. And
I didn't realize he did that. Never interrupt your opponent when he's making a mistake. So for those, I'm going to play that part again. That's fantastic.
Enough is enough.
So she's losing
it.
It
will separate families.
And then, let's see, she's screaming.
She has to carry her U.S. passport around?
Is that what we're going to do? We're going to
Are
ask
we
people to carry
now to have
ID?
documentation? That's what you want to turn our neighborhoods into, is militarization?
I yield the gentlelady an additional 30 seconds.
Gentlelady is recognized.
I just ask all...
So she was out of time. And so her opponent, the Republican who was arguing against her, is like, you know what? She's on a roll with all of the stupid going on. You know what? She can have the rest of my 30 seconds. I love it so much. That's fantastic. Also, again, this bill just says, like, if you are arrested for committing a crime, like you are stealing, you've been caught shoplifting, you know, you've participated in the looting a couple of TVs from the local Walmart scene, and the police arrest you and they find out that you're a migrant, not a U.S. citizen, then yeah, you might get canned because you can't handle it. You can't handle living in, oh, there's going to be profile. What crimes is your mother committing? Speeding and jaywalking are not the crimes listed in this bill. But I mean, that would require Rashida Tlaib to, you know, have the ability to be literate. And so far, jury's out. Then there's Ilhan Omar, who has proposed that the United States just completely get rid of immigration law, period. Like actually get rid of United States immigration law, which is founded on an immigration act by second U.S. President John Adams from 1798. So here's Ilhan Omar losing her marbles because the United States has laws, like just in general. This is, and what she calls the law is something special.
It is hard to imagine anything more un-American than that. The Trump administration's immigration policy is a threat to immigrants like criminals. America.
Wait a minute. Hang on a second. Did you guys hear what I heard there? I'm gonna rewind the tape up just a little bit. But did she say that Trump's immigration policy is a threat to criminals? Well, let's see again.
Administration's immigration policy is a threat to immigrants like criminals.
Don't we want policies to be a threat to criminals? Isn't that kind of like the point? What?
America is too great to fall prey to Donald Trump's anti-immigrant agenda. We need to restore basic humanity to our immigration system, and that starts with repealing the Alien Enemies Act of 1798, with Our Neighbors Not Enemies Act. Together, we will end this xenophobic law once and for all.
Xenophobic law. Nothing like calling the basic immigration structure of the United States un-American. Replaced it with like the friends, the neighbor. I love that the progressives can't help but name things. The most cutesy summer camp at Hippieville, California style law. Like it's the Friendship and like Neighborliness Act. And this is the Roses and like Love and Hugs law. And it like, it's like an act on a capital execution. But you know, I mean, hey, classic for Ilhan Omar, who by the way, I'm really not going to listen to an individual who has repeatedly taken on the presidential will of the worse of not Somaliland but Somalia, and basically brought that forward to the House of Congress like some kind of unregistered lobbyist. By the way, that's not me saying that. That would actually be the president of Somalia who's made that case. But, you know, Ilhan Omar just showing, again, why if your loudest voices are, in fact, people like Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, AOC, who's busy screaming, how little she cares about, that she also, made straight armed in the air movements, she doesn't care. I mean, over and over. This kind of behavior does not actually create a healthy environment in which someone would oppose Trump in a way that would gain voters. Now, we sat down with Scott Rasmussen on Inauguration Day, and I asked him what it would take to flip the trend of the midterm election shifting away from the prior electoral party winner in 2026. And he said that what had to be done was Trump had to deliver on promises. He said he had to deliver on promises about immigration. He had to deliver on promises about the economy. And then he had to deliver on promises on cultural issues. So things like LGBTQ and kid stuff, and then DEI initiatives, those kind of nonsensities. So far, Trump is 2 for 3, and I'm going to give him 2.5 out of 3. So on the immigration thing so far, Tom Homan going and finding the criminals. Again, not just, little Susie in the class who was brought with her mother over the border, and it's like there's sad and pregnant. Her mom's got one leg and only has a year to live because she has 6 types of cancer. And also the girl is, part soft Yorkie. It's all just such a sad story. Oh, it's terrible. Her father was like brutally slaughtered by white supremacists, like the caricature here. And ICE is going to come in, and Tom Homan is going to go, "Come with me, girl, I'm throwing you into the ocean." And that's the picture that they want to paint with Americans. And then, the actual illegal immigrants who, again, are hopping into the country are big winners like this guy.
I'm not going back to Haiti.
One of those threats is this illegal alien from Haiti. ICE says he's a gang member with 17 criminal convictions in recent years.
So wait a minute. Why aren't they going after like the little kids? The left said that's what they were going to do. All of the Instagram reels right now, that because I don't use TikTok because I don't believe in Chinese nonsensical garbage for social media apps. But as far as Instagram is concerned in this particular case, as I was scrolling through the reels, I'm seeing a lot of left-wing activists who are very, very, very upset, very grumpy that Trump is passing all of these executive orders. And they're saying that it's just going to be hell on earth. Oh, it's going to be terrible. Oh, the world has ended. Welcome to fascism and all other kinds of nonsense. Though it took the media an hour to find a crying woman at the southern border who was stopped and told she had to stay in Mexico until her stuff cleared, I haven't found all of the photos of ICE going in and like kicking down the door of the elementary school and saying, "All right, everyone in here who's brown, stand up. You're coming with me." That hasn't happened. Now, a lot of public schools are trying to fearmonger their parents. Indianapolis Public Schools, where I used to work, sent out an email that was sent over to us over at TonyKinnett.com, in which the Indianapolis public school system has tried to comfort parents that they're not going to ask whether anyone is an immigrant or not. Okay. Basically, they've said, well, they're not going to cooperate with immigration, customs, and enforcement unless they have the correct documentation. Unless we're talking about some 17-year-old in high school who's suspected of being a gang member, nobody's coming after little Johnny in the 4th grade. No, ain't happening. And you know what? If you didn't want to separate parents from kids, don't break the law. Kind of a little bit of a fun thing there. Last but not least, I would like to really go off the reservation here and talk a little bit about social media. So as many of you, I say many of you, just as some of you know, I run a satire account over on X called The Ministry of Truth. It's just a goofy satire account that I've enjoyed running for the last couple of years. I think it's pretty fun. And I, after hearing that Donald Trump was going to release the documents about the assassination of JFK, about the possible assassination of Robert F. Kennedy, about the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr., I thought that it would behoove my good sense of humor to make a bit of a joke. And so what I did is I took one of the letters that had been recovered from Lee Harvey Oswald, which is redacted, ton of, black tape all over it. And then I hopped over to Photoshop, and I scrubbed away a little bit of the black on the right side. I mirrored the images, and I put in a sentence. And the sentence, or the couple of sentences that I put in, and this is like it's Lee Harvey Oswald that's writing the letter. It says, quote, "I tried to tell Cruz not to do it, but he told me, if you interfere with the Zodiac's plans, I'll have you taken care of, you dirty commie. Whatever you do, don't let Ted run for Senate. I have information that will lead to the arrest of Hillary Clinton, and then that's where I re-redact the rest of it. Kind of a funny joke. On the internet, 2 funny jokes that have been around for a long time, memes if you will, are that Ted Cruz is actually the Zodiac killer. And number 2, that anytime someone says, I have information that will lead to the arrest of Hillary Clinton, they are suicided by 3 shots to the back of the head. So anytime there is an untimely demise of an individual, usually someone will make a fake Twitter account and tweet, I have information that will lead to the arrest of Hillary Clinton. And then anytime Ted Cruz is around or there's some type of any kind of a crime that happens, Ted Cruz's account is hit with, I bet this is the work of the Zodiac killer. Ted Cruz does indeed think that particular joke is funny. I don't know if Hillary Clinton thinks anything is funny. I just think that sometimes Hillary Clinton dry heaves when it's been too long. So moving along, some people thought, in fact, the joke was funny, which is nice. I like to at least think that I'm a little bit funny and witty. Otherwise, what I'm doing here is a even bigger waste of time than it might already be. Then there are a few people who are very, very, very grumpy. And they're very, 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 very grumpy because they claim that, I guess, I'm a grifter trying to spread fake news. And they have decided to tell me that Hillary Clinton was actually Hillary Rodham in 1960, and she was like 14. Yeah, that's the joke. When you post 2 jokes that are so clearly jokes and people get bent out of shape, guys, this is why you need to read what is in the article or the meme or the post before you post it. So many times today, everyone wants to cut corners. This is one of the reasons that I started the Ministry of Truth. I believed that I could have a lot of fun with people who do not read article headlines all the way through, who don't look at the picture, and who do not read the article. Because that is a huge chunk of social media today. And when you don't do so, you cause significant issues. And huge rumors get bent out of shape really fast. And look, everybody's been fooled by things here and there before. I certainly have. And I'm sure that all of you know how many of our dear friends and relatives have made that stupid post on Facebook that crops up every couple of weeks. By 11:59 p.m., Channel 13 says that Facebook will start selling your photo. By posting this, I do not give Facebook permission to sell my photo. And it's like, it's been copy and pasted like once a week since 2011, but it's still out there. I would pose a bit of a solution. This is a serious problem in this country, and it is costing the citizens of the United States millions of dollars a year because people get text messages, people get emails, people get phone calls, and with AI getting better and better and better, it is going to be way easier to be scammed out of everything you know. I've fallen for a scam before. There was somebody who was trying to get me to give them my PayPal information for like an hour before I realized that it was a scammer and I was not buying a baby grand piano on Facebook Marketplace. It happens. It happens to the best of us. And this is why you need to be skeptical. I need to be skeptical. Do not, just because you see someone online share a post, does not mean it, first of all, that they're sharing the post because they think that it's true. Retweets do not equal endorsements is one of the most popular add-ons in social media biographies of all time. Number 2, read the thing. It's not going to kill you to read the article. When I spoke at a youth, like young conservatives in Texas conference back in the summer, and that was one of the things that I gave as advice to kind of young conservatives in journalism or news or independent media. Read the article. Read it anyway. At the very worst, you're just going to have something you can make fun of the author for because it's garbage. Read the thing. Because I'm seeing a lot of things right now, as we all have throughout the entire election, where people are claiming wild things about the 14th Amendment, about what Elon Musk did or didn't do, about what the Episcopalian bishop lady did say to Trump. And it's amazing, by just watching the stuff, by looking at it, you can actually see what it is. Now, do I always follow this rule? No. You saw it on the episode this evening. I did not catch the part where the Republican congressman yielded the rest of his time to Tlaib in the middle of her rant. Watch that kind of stuff in advance. It's just good policy. And if you fall prey to a social media joke, don't take it personally. This has been one to grow on. And at that point, I think we should have like the more you know NBC star just like swim across the screen. With that said, I think that about wraps up the rest of the news. We had to talk about the goofy goober nonsense of the left. We're going to be back tomorrow, hopefully to talk about the new Secretary of Defense, Pam Bondi for Attorney General, also coming up pretty soon. More of these particular executive orders are expected on the way. Also, some updates on what will end up being a Supreme Court case about the 14th Amendment. A lot of stuff to get into. I'm looking forward to digging into it with y'all. Take care. Have an excellent evening. This is the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal, nationally syndicated and first on 93 WIBC.